Just a couple of minutes before noon on a Thursday afternoon, starting the day with a fast main track firm turf course this afternoon. Of course, this is going to be exciting weekend racing, besides the fact that we got a couple of stakes races on Saturday. Of course, on Saturday, it is Kentucky Derby Day. I want to say good morning right now. I got a couple of minutes to Ashley. Ashley, exciting week always in racing.
Very exciting. We only have 8 races today, but I think that's a good way to ease into the next couple of days. You mentioned we have stakes races, but it's the Kentucky Oaks, it's the Kentucky Derby, it's 3-year-old season, so a lot of exciting action coming up, and then just thinking ahead over the next 5 weeks.
Yeah, it's going to be great. We got the Preakness coming up, and of course, a little further down the road, the Belmont, but we'll be giving out both Oaks and Kentucky Derby picks tomorrow. So we'll give out our Oaks picks tomorrow. Then on Saturday, of course, Kentucky Derby picks. I'm getting Ashley to finally commit. So I'm going to make her put it in writing on Friday and Saturday. She's been waffling for the last couple of days.
Yeah, you just put the pressure on me. I will be prepared with my notes tomorrow. I do think I have my Derby pick ready. I don't have my Oaks pick ready, so I guess I got to be ready tomorrow.
Yeah, well, you'll see how it looks. You'll help people along with that. Of course, we got advanced wagering on Friday for all the stuff on Saturday at the Kentucky Derby. We'll talk about it to go on. But as you mentioned, starting the week with an 8-race card. And it's going to be a great week of racing here. We got 2 stakes, as I mentioned, on Saturday. We'll talk also about that later on. But let's deal with today's card. We're going to start it off with your early Pick 5 ticket.
Didn't have any luck on Saturday. Wish I would have cashed that one because it's a big, big payout in the early Pick 5 this past weekend. But starting off things here in race 1, I went too deep. I do think the number 6, Grand Wiser, looks tough, dropping out of that $25,000 maiden claiming race here. And that was the first race of 2021. So I think this horse on the drop making that second start looks tough. But I also used the 2, Catherine's Joy. I think you took some interest in this horse as well, Ron. I think this one's sneaky, having a ton of early foot and now getting back onto the dirt. Race 2, I went 3 deep. This was my spread race today. I just thought this was a maiden special weight event on the grass that was wide open. I used Chickaboom on the rail as well as Eskimo's Boss, who I vividly remember you liked a little bit on debut, had some trouble, so it's going to be the second start for her. And then I used the number 5, Katie's Dream Girl, who I'm intrigued by, just making the second start since December, and I think had a pretty good trip last time out, going to get Chantal Sutherland aboard today for trainer Nick Ralph. And then Ralph Nix, I should say. That was backwards. And then race 3, I went too deep in here. I just used 2 horses. I used the favorite Alizé on the rail and the number 4, Infatuating, who was a huge scratch in our racing last week. But I think this one's going to be in some tougher waters today, but they must have some confidence. Went too deep in race 4. And then in race 5, I also went too deep. I used Party Swagger and I used the number 4, Hot Babe. I was kind of torn between the 2. So overall, $24 for the early Pick 5.
Very affordable. And you're absolutely right. This first race, by the way, is a 7-furlong sprint maiden claiming 3-year-old $16,000. We'll have 8 to kick it off. And you're absolutely right about the 2 with me, Catherine Joy. It's one of my favorite angles in horse racing when the horses turn back to 7 on the main track after showing speed and weakening to finish 6th against those 25 maidens going a mile in the 16th on the turf. Antonio Chiaffi is the trainer. He's got Lionel Reyes. And I was hoping to get a little bit of a price up there, 5-1 in the morning line, taking a little money very early on in the wagering. Just like that angle. And the horse you would think is going to be on the lead when it comes back after going long on the grass. But sometimes they just stalk, and I've gotten some good prices doing that.
You mentioned the lead aspect. I mean, in 3 of his 4 career starts, he's gotten the lead early on. And those last 2, they've been against tougher, as we've mentioned, but really early speed in both of those races, especially the 1-2 back. I do like that most recent effort in the sense that the winner came back to win next time out, Tellington, who I think is now 2 for 2 in the career. The other thing I want to mention about him, the debut was on the dirt. It was on the slop and was just second best in that race. So we haven't seen the dirt since then. That was at the 7-furlong distance. I think this horse is sneaky in this spot.
Yeah, but you're right about the fact that the number 6, Grand Wiser, is absolutely the one to beat on the drop to the 16 level.
I mean, on debut, this is one that didn't like the slop, unlike the horse we just talked about. Didn't want any part of it. That was well in for the $50,000 tag. That was back in November, so gave this one a couple months off. Now just making the second start as a 3-year-old. And looking at the first start as a 3-year-old, just kind of an even second. I mean, tried to press the winner early on and faded to finish second, beaten by 6 lengths. I don't even know if fade's the right word. I just think Dark Timber was the best on that day. So I'm excited to see this one second time out and just on the drop-in class. Another one that I think if you're looking at the 2, we're reversed in the exacta. as usual, but these are probably the two.
Yeah, MSCL Jaramillo will be riding for Victor Barboza Jr. Boy, has that barn sort of wake up. They wake up in the spring, summer. Him and, Victor Barboza Jr. does an excellent job. It's a son of Flat Out. Dr. Rogers, a candidate you would think for a rebound performance today. Followed that okay second place finish against Similar. Didn't run very well last time out. Juan Avila, claimed him 2 starts back. Got the Apprentice today. It's the old bounce rebound maybe this afternoon.
I'm not sure what happened last time out. It was the $20,000 level, which to me isn't a huge difference from today's race, and just didn't have anything throughout. I mean, was a little, I guess, further back in terms of position in the race. You look at that race 2 back, he was still about 2.5 lengths off the leaders early on, but he had a lot more horses beat. And then from there, he tired. Now, looking at the race 2 back, you see, he was second beaten by 11 lengths, but Flamingo Hawk was just literally much the best that day, came back to finish second, facing winners for the first time. I just have my reservations about Dr. Roger. He doesn't have a late punch that I've seen in basically any of his races, so that's why I use him kind of in the same spot as you.
Well, we go to race number 2, and as you mentioned when you were putting your ticket together, really great race this afternoon. A compact field of 6, but I like it. Mile on the Turf, maiden special weight, state-bred fillies and mares, 3-year-olds and upward. Chickaboom on the inside is a half-sister to multiple Turf Stakes winner Monforte, who's actually running on the main track on Saturday in the big drama. Turning back to the mile, duel for lead, yielded late, third going a mile. Looks like the logical choice in there for Ruben Gracida. Edwin Gonzalez in the saddle.
I like the connections. The connections have been doing well, both the trainer and the rider. And then you look at that first race on the turf. It was the first turf race. It was stretching out from a 5.5 furlong race on the dirt. And this one, unlike on the debut, this one made it towards the front end and just finished third, beaten by 3 lengths. Maybe got a little tired, had a reason for it, was stretching out. I just think this horse is in a spot where she can certainly step up, second time going long on the grass. And I like the rail draw for her.
Well, the number 2 horse, as you mentioned, I have some interest in here. This is a half-sister to local turf star Galleon Mass. We're going to go back and show you her last race. She comes out of the gate, and she doesn't break very well in this race. She is the number 7 that afternoon. I like Galleon Mass. Her sister, she just doesn't get a good start. Number 7, so you'll see last trail in the field. But watch when I pick up this horse in the stretch. You look at the past performances. It's one of those you say, well, finished way back there. But watch this horse steady close along the inside. I mean, doesn't reel in the top runners, but I think that after that tough break, you'll see right now, I just think this horse has got a lot of upside. Love the breeding. David Forks, who trains Galleon Mass, also has Paco Lopez, topped this 4-year-old daughter of Street Boys. I thought that was a pretty good performance after, and I think it's a sneaky one where the horse was running very well up the rail for Tyler Gaffleone.
I completely agree. I also think having that awkward start, it was probably a learning experience just in general, because from there, the trip's never going to be what you expected once you have a start like that. So kind of had to adjust and figure out the game plan from there. But you mentioned showed some promise in the stretch, showed a willingness to move forward and try to close the gap somewhat. So I like seeing that. You mentioned the pedigree is great. I'm looking at kind of, out of an Eskimo mare. The dam had 2 career wins on the turf at Tampa, so likes turf. And you mentioned the big half sibling out of all of them, but all the siblings that have made it to the track have been winners. So I like what I see here. You're going to see Paco in the saddle, which I have to think he's going to try to get this horse out of the gate way more than we saw last time out. So that's another plus in her favor.
Yeah, David Forks, the trainer, does excellent job with horses making their second start. So we'll see how that horse runs today. But I could understand using the number 5, Katie's Dream Girl. Wheeling Bragg proved she can compete against this level. She made that 5-wide bid last time out.
She had a wide trip last time out. I mean, she was making ground up. She wasn't, I guess, making up a lot of ground, but she showed, again, some willingness in the stretch. And I think looking at her turf races have been a step up, but she's still 4 for 5 in her career in the money. And I think what I liked last time out, she showed, as you mentioned, she can hang at this level, but it was her first start as a 3-year-old. So I'm just seeing what she can do now in her second start this year.
Well, we get to take an early break this afternoon because we got the Rainbow Six starting in race number 3. So we'll be back in a moment with my ticket.
In the 2 path.
Welcome back to Gulfstream today. Ron and Ashley. Race 3, 7 furlongs. Claimers fillies, 3-year-olds of fillies and mares 4 and up. Non-winners of a race since 10/29, October 29th. 12.5 down to $10,000. And, we start the Rainbow Six here, and we have a $350,000 jackpot guarantee this afternoon. And 2 deep in here with me with Ali Z. Infatuating. I really wanted to see this horse run. It looks like, I think they scratched this horse twice already, if I remember correctly. But I did use that one. Didn't want to get beat. I like Garner State Park in race number 4, along with Tammy's Orchid and Smooth Pebble, 3 deep. Also 3 deep in race number 5, Hot Babe, Holy Secret, and Party Swagger. I know you used 2 of those horses. Nibble Beast in the 6 with strong ending in race number 6, and Create Again in race number 7, along with Craze Brooklyn Law. And in the last race, my long shot today is our Stewie, who I'm really trying to wake up a horse that just thought maybe this horse with a drop today can run well at a big price. So we'll see how it plays out. But also use the logical 2 in there, the 7 and the 9. So 43-20 for me.
Whenever I see your Rainbow Six ticket up here, I always have to compare with my early pick 5 and my late pick 4 to see if there's overlap. And I feel like we're pretty much on the same page. I do agree, though, in the sense that this is something I necessarily didn't do and wish I would have done. Race 4, I think, is a sneaky race that's wide open. I used the 6 as well, but used a couple other horses. And that race, I think, is a compact field, but still a pretty tough event. So I look to be in agreement with a lot of the races.
Yeah, your early pick 5, we were pretty much in agreement too there. But this one here, I don't know how you went with it. Did you go with Ali Z on top, who's dropping to the 12.5 level today? Going to go back and show you this horse's last performance. We're going to pick it up just before the 8-pole home when Ali Z does that imitation of a chandelier here and hangs a little bit when finishing 3rd, beating a half length. I just think this is a logical spot. And it's Saffy Joseph Jr. I just wanted to show you this horse. I thought hung a little bit and maybe should have won in that race at the end. But Saffy got so much respect for him with Edgar Zayas atop this daughter of Mark Valesky.
I agree in the sense she should have won that last race. I mean, she was favored in that spot. She not only was 3rd, but she did get beat by a horse that finished 2nd, timed a 2-step, who was 10 or 12 to 1. So a big price there. And then you see the drop. The drop doesn't really concern me because we've seen this a bunch with the connections. They do this, and they did claim this horse for 35 2 starts back, but it doesn't shock me to see her in for the 12.5 today. And she looks tough. I mean, she's got 2 wins here from 5 starts over the main track, and she's faced some really tough competitors here and at Gulfstream Park West. So I liked her on top. I couldn't really see anyone else probably beating her today.
Yeah, you mentioned the connections of Frank Calabrese. I jokingly call it the Calabrese drop. He doesn't care. He just wants to get his picture taken, so in a good spot. And, of course, Saffy, our leading trainer. The number 4, Infatuating. I don't want to get beat by this horse. Maybe a lot of people, when they're putting the Rainbow Six, and rightly so, might single Ali Z. But Infatuation has been scratched, I think, twice, if I remember correctly. Turning back to 7 furlongs, she used her speed. She notched a 3rd consecutive victory. She was the 3-5 favorite that day.
She's been really impressive in all of her wins. I mean, 2 back, she had to work for it a little bit more, just winning by half a length. Lyrical was 2nd, but last time out, she just gets to the front and she just kind of pours it on late. And that was going from those 2 6-furlong races, stretching back out to a mile. She hadn't gone a mile or more until it was way back when. It was in November at Park. So I like her. She loves it here. She's 3 for 3. But I think when you look at the race, I agree. I didn't want to get beat by her because her races have been so impressive. But I do think this is going to be a tougher spot than she's seen in the past. Just knowing the horse that we used on top, it's coming out of a $35,000 claiming event. And the numbers, some of her numbers, she's had some big races under her belt. So I don't know if Ali Z is the same horse that she once was, but if she has one of those big performances, I do think, she could be better than Infatuating, but I still don't know what's there with Infatuating, so I used her for 2nd.
The number 6, Hold the Applause, is stepping up the competition. She was pretty game last time out. She held on to defeat those non-winners of 2 lifetime runners, going to 7 furlong distance. Rohan Crichton, Paco Lopez going for 2 in a row. Certainly going to get a little bit of a class check this afternoon.
She is. You think that last race, I mean, it was a nice performance. And my thing with it is it was a little different than her other 2 because she kind of lacked a late punch at the 5 and 5.5 furlong distance. 7 furlongs, she kind of put it all together. So I think just off that performance alone, you have to use her here. She is facing some more seasoned mares, but her last 3, they've all been good, and they've been, to me, on the up and up. You see her buyer numbers have increased by 4 or 5 each time. So she seems to be liking the dirt a little bit more than some of the other surfaces that she's she's raced on.
Let's go to race number 4. About 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Maiden Claim is Fillies and Mastering up $25,000. And like you mentioned, a pretty good race this afternoon. Garner State Park, we both have on top. Should be primed and ready to score. Let's go back and show you this horse's last performance. We're going to just show this horse. It's the number 11 at the Garner State Park. And runs very well, gets beat a neck. But what I like about this horse, this was the first race back from about an 11-month layoff, a tough post last time out. Drifts a little bit in the stretch here like that. You can understand that. Maybe ducking a little bit from the 10 horse. But I thought it ran very well, coming off the bench.
And all of her races have been good. You look at the 4 stars, she's hit the board in all of them. Her first race here, they debuted her at 16,000. No one took her. They kept her at that level, and she's always stayed there. Now she is going to jump in for a $25,000 tag today, but I'm not concerned with it. I know when we talked about her last time out, we showed the replay all the way back from May. It wasn't a perfect trip. She just missed by a neck behind Caribbean Kitten, who was the favorite in that spot, who put a big performance in. So off her even all of her starts, but really her last 2, I do think she's the one to beat.
And we got the horse you have in second. I didn't use on my ticket. I want to hear about this number. What is it? The number 3 horse in here, Touring Egypt.
This is one that I thought was sneaky in this spot. Just looking at those first 2 races there at the maiden special weight level, they were on the dirt. One was going, 6.5. The other one was going a mile. Didn't show anything really at all. I mean, out of the 2, I guess you would say the debut was better, but still not ideal. I mean, was still well defeated in 4. It was a small horse field. But for me, the first turf race, it was at this level in for the $25,000 tag. And she just seemed to pick it up a little bit. I mean, it was going a mile. She finished 4th, beaten by 3 3/4. You still would have wanted more of a late punch, but it seems like the light bulb went on a little bit. So I love horses when they're making their second start on the turf. The other thing is the barn has been sensational so far at the start of the spring-summer meet. 3 for 6 in terms of wins, and they hit the board every time. So I'm thinking it's going to be 7 for 7 in the money with this one. So I used Touring Egypt underneath.
Yeah, good angle. When Terry Pompey gets hot, she gets hot, and she always does exceptionally well. She's one of those real streaky trainers. She'll reel off 5, 6 in a row. The number 4, Tammy's Orchid, is turning back to 7.5. Tracked the pace, finished third against those 16 maidens, going a mile into 16. Fernando Abreu, who's got claimed her last time out. He's got Chantal. Chantal's been riding pretty nicely here at the meet.
She's been picking it up. I see that she's riding for more trainers now, and she's winning for a bunch of trainers now. When she first started, I remember, I think her first 2 wins were for Patrick Biancone, and now she's branching out, and she's getting mounts, and they're performing well. With her last 2 races, they've certainly been a step up. They've also been at the $16,000 level, which you see a couple in here are coming up now to the $25,000. I'm not worried about it. But last time out, I think with her, it was an even finish in the end. But looking at other horses in here that have turf experience, she's one that I used. I just have my reservations with her, especially with the other 2. I think for me, the 6 stood out, but I think Tammy's Orchard can at least get a piece.
Well, you have a stat on the number 5, Smooth Pebble, but you're like me. You didn't really trust this horse. You got a little further down the ticket than me. It's a $290,000 Daughter of Dial-In, dropping to the 25 level and debuting on the grass for Christoph.
So let's look at the stat real quick. So you mentioned all these high points. Right. The purchase price debuted on the dirt for $50,000, but then I wanted to look at some stats. So I just looked at Christoph with maidens, dirt to turf in the last 5 years, because I feel like a lot of the time, if he's thinking turf, he probably debuts on turf. Well, looking at this angle on the surface switch, he's 20 for 99 in terms of wins, so 20% strike rate. He's 53% in the money, and the ROI is 192. So he does very well with this angle. I just have a lot of reservations with Smooth Pebble. I like the horse in the sense that was an expensive purchase, is taking a drop in class, but didn't really show anything on the dirt, and the drop concerns me. Why not try maybe a little bit tougher on the turf? So looks like maybe they're trying to get the win. They're putting Paco in the saddle. You like that move, but I used this one for 4th, pretty far down.
Yeah, so, I can understand. I was sort of, I was going to say, well, maybe this is a good long shot in here, but I did use it further down on the ticket. Let's flip the page, go back to the main track. 7 furlongs for race 5. Maiden Claim is Fillies and Mastering up, 12,500. 10 in the field to kick off the late pick 4.
My late pick 4 today, I think, is one of my lesser tickets than I usually put out there. 24 is my magic number. I'm going to slash that in half. Use 2 horses in here. I used Party Swagger and Hot Babe. Party Swagger is coming out of a $25,000 meeting claiming event on the turf, now going to get back on the dirt and just face way lesser competition than she showed in both of her starts. And then the 4, Hot Babe, has just been kind of almost getting the job done. Has some early foot, but has a second and third place finish most recently at the level. So Hot Babe to me makes a lot of sense. And now just coming into that third start since January, can maybe improve in here. Race 6, I went too deep. I used the 1, Nimble Beast, who is a 6-length winner last time out. I also used the 8, Strong Ending, who maybe doesn't like to win here necessarily, but has a pretty strong record over the Gulfstream Park main track. 7 starts, has only missed the board once, and 4 of those have been runner-up finishes. Then in race 7, I went too deep in here. Just kind of looking at this race, I thought it came down to 2 horses. The morning line favorite, the number 2, Create Again, who's going to take a drop in class off of those last 2 performances and faced a pretty nice winner last time out by the name of Tune In. And then I also used the number 5 in there. That's one out of the Peter Walder barn, who I think is also going to get a little bit of class relief. But the other main thing is coming back here from to Gulfstream Park from a race out of Tampa. And then finally, in the last race, I went with the logicals. We already talked about this when you looked at your Rainbow 6. The 1, Call Bros, looks tough, as well as the 6 and the 7, in my opinion. They're all kind of favored in here. But I know you liked another horse. You liked the 9. But for me, I went to the 6 next. That's out of the Amador Sanchez barn. We always talk about when trainers send in 2 horses. I feel like, I don't know, if I use one, it's the other one that beats me. So I use both as horses in there, the 6 and the 7. So just $12 for the late pick 4.
Yeah, that happens to me all the time. $12, very, very affordable ticket. Let's get back to the 5th race. The 4, Hot Babe, is where I started, turning back to 7 today after dueling for the lead and weaking late to finish 3rd and 2nd, respectively, as you mentioned. Again, similar going that mile. I think the turnback will help for Jose D'Angelo. MSCL Jaramillo should be getting his horse interested early.
That's the big thing. I think getting involved early in the race is key here, because the only other horse I kind of see going is right directly to her inside, the number 3, Holy Secret, who showed speed for the first time in her career last time out and wasn't very speedy necessarily. Obviously, Hot Babe is a lot quicker, but at least had some early foot. So I think Hot Babe's kind of dangerous and lethal in here if this one's able to get an easy lead early on. 2 starts back, she tried to get the lead and couldn't get it, and she was just second best. So I used her on top, and I know we kind of flip-flop for 2nd and 3rd in here.
Yeah, Party Swagger now in the Mike Lerman barn. This sophomore is returning to the main track. Sort of took a sightseeing trip against those 25 maidens, going 7.5 on the turf. I like the fact that Mario Pino jumps aboard this afternoon, and Holy Secret for all the reasons you just mentioned.
For Party Swagger, I think the big thing for her, she's going to need to get a clean break. She seems to have problems out of the gate in both of her starts. One was a bumping thing, one was just braking slowly. So now they're going to slash her claiming price in half again, and they're going to get her back on the dirt. I thought it was maybe the best shot for her. I will say, last time out, just not an ideal trip, but she still made up some ground to finish 7th, but she only missed by 4 1/4. So I elevated her over Holy Secret. But as I mentioned, Holy Secret seems to be improving slightly with each start, and last time out was probably her best effort.
Yeah, probably a little wide open affair. If you can find a single somewhere when you're putting your ticket together. That race scares me a little bit. Let's go to race number 6, 6.5 furlong sprint. Claimers 3-year-olds, 4 and up, non-winners of 3 in life. 62.50 is the claiming price, and Nimble Beast is moving to the Jose D'Angelo barn after the claim. Let's go back and show you this horse. You're just going to pick it up from the 8-pole home. I just thought this was an unbelievable performance. More importantly, if you look up in the right-hand corner there, she went quick, 22 and 145 and almost flat there, and just drew off. She was just so much the best that afternoon. For Carlos Lugo handling the inside post this afternoon, and this is just a window dressing performance. I just thought going that fast, you thought somebody might have closed a little bit, but she was impressive last time out.
She seemed to certainly like the 6.5 furlong distance compared to going a mile, and more recently a mile and a 16th over the main track here. You just saw the same thing in her other efforts. I mean, he likes to be forwardly placed in his races, and just I think a mile and a 16th might be pushing it a little bit for him right now. So I like him on the cutback, and then last time out, the cutback suited him well. You mentioned horses weren't closing at all, and such a dominant winner. I had to use this one on top again, and we mentioned joining a new barn who first off the claim does quite well.
Yeah, so we'll see how Nimble Beast runs if he can put 2 together like that. But Strong Ending is turning back to 6.5 today. She responded to the drop down at this actual level with that 5-wide third going to 1-turn mile last time for Paul Kopach. And you're getting Fanny Olson to top this Son of Strong mandate.
The big thing is we saw the step up last time out. It was at this level, but I mean step up in performance because I don't think this colt wants any part of the turf. His record reflects that. He's 1 for 10 in the money. It was a win, but his turf performances, I just want to draw a line through. Not only were they tougher, but he doesn't like the grass. So you start going back to some of those dirt races, going down the page. His probably best one, besides the most recent one, was all the way back in December, and it was well in for the $16,000 tag. But I just liked seeing that last time out. He showed that he was kind of getting back to his old ways, so I did use him for second here. And I just was afraid about singling in this race against with Nimble Beast off such a big performance, so I also used Strong Ending.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% because Nimble Beast, it's sometimes those races at that level are just too good to be true. So you also used the number 5 horse in here, Handsome Prince, who is actually, I think, second choice on the line. I must have either missed him or did not use him.
You missed the Peter Walder factor right there. Peter Walder claimed this one 2 back. That was back in the middle of February for 12-5 out of a turf race. This horse was kind of campaigning just on the dirt strictly in the career. Tried him on the turf once. He didn't like the turf, so I don't think we'll see that anytime soon. And then in the first start for Peter Walder, faced a pretty tough group. It was $16,000 claimers. Alejandro's team got the win. But I talk about that group. The interesting thing is that race was on April 23rd, so wasn't that long ago. And with this angle, it's not something Peter does all the time. He's 1 for 4 with this angle, but he does well second off. So to me, when I saw that quick comeback, it makes me think that Peter thinks this horse is ready to go up to snuff and really is going to do well at this level, just in for the 62.50 tag.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and give that horse a second look. And the number 3, Diamonds and Joy, who's run okay at this distance in the past, stretches out today after pressing the pace, finishing 4th against Simla, going 5.5. Amador Sanchez, Hector Berrios atop the son of Kitten's Joy. So maybe this horse can grab a share.
He's getting gelded, too. It's his first time gelding, always an angle that I look at. But the big thing is, I didn't love the last 2 efforts, but what's to say he can't get back to where he was in December or January? Because he had 2 solid efforts back-to-back. He was second, beaten by a nose behind Baby Brother. And then next time out, he got the win, was able to do it by 3/4 of a length. And that was both of those were at the 6 furlong distance. So not too concerned about 6.5. He's only had that 1 start at the distance, and it resulted in a second-place finish.
Well, let's go to race number 7, a mile claiming event, 4 and up, non-winners of 3 in life, or a race since October 29th, $25,000. Boy, you look at the conditions of this race and you look at number 2, Create Again, fits these conditions of this race perfectly. A 6-time winner goes for his first score since defeating $18 claimers when? Last October. So Victor Barboza Jr. certainly read the condition book. Edgar Zayas handling this 6-year-old. He likes to win, and he's in a good spot where he's facing horses that don't win that much.
He's in the perfect spot, like you said. This is what you're looking for if you have a horse like him. You mentioned the big win at Gulfstream Park West. He crushed the field. And his 2 efforts after that, they gave him about 2 months off. They were both solid when you look at the effort in December. And then February, he's second beaten by 2 lengths behind Danville, and then third beaten by a length. And he was just kind of in both of those pressing the pace. And I think if you look at some of his other races, when he gets the lead, that's maybe where he's most dangerous on the lead. And then last time out, that was a tough field. I mean, there was a bunch of different angles to look at. It was a big field. I think it was just too tough for him. So you have to like him in this spot today.
Well, the number 5, Gray's Brooklyn Law, didn't miss Peter this time. And this one is back home and stretching out to its most accomplished distance, 15 races with those 3 wins, 4 seconds, a third, finished that late closing third. As the favorite, that was those optional claimers up at Tampa. Peter got Paco in the saddle. That's his go-to jock.
That is his go-to jock. They win it quite well, about 19-20% at Gulfstream Park. And that last race is wonky. The horse was favored, but I don't think that's where you want to be in a 7-horse race, is dead last early on and then having to swing wide in the race. You're just losing so much ground throughout, but did settle for third, beaten by 4 lengths. This is just another one who does like Gulfstream Park, has 2 wins over the main track, but you have to go pretty far to find that last win, and there were 2 wins back-to-back. You see the win that was all the way back in June and July. I'm just thinking this might be a better spot for him. He does have talent. It's just been a while since we've really seen something for him. And when I see the connections, I have to think they're going to have this one tuned up to go in this spot.
Well, you were singing the praises of Terry Pompey a little earlier. And the number 1, Rebeldi, a 4-time local winner, returns to action. First start since chasing the pace. That was against those 35 condition claimers. But it was way back in January. Terry has Miguel Vasquez, 2-time winner at the distance. And just for me, in third because I respect the connections.
the connections we've mentioned, red hot. I think looking at this one, I just wanted to kind of take a little bit of a wait and see approach. I wouldn't be shocked to see this horse have a great race. I mean, this horse really does well here over the main track, but the last couple efforts I haven't been a huge fan of, but 2 starts back, look at the winner, Aziz's team. So this has been some tough races for him as well, and they've given him some time off. And just looking at his breeze pattern, he's had some nice breezes, at Gulfstream Park, all of them. And so I like what I see. I just was a little cautious.
Well, you went, but we just have our, bottom 2 flip-flopped around. You had Examiner in third.
Examiner had a good race last time out. I know the tag was only 16,000 in there going 6 furlongs, but it was a pretty nice second. It was a step up from the last couple races because he had some pretty bad races here over the main track. They tried him on the turf, but and it's all relative. You have to see where he's been at race-wise, and he's one that he's had some big races here, and the big thing is the angle that I saw, and I think this is what with another horse I saw of Diane Marici's in the past. That's a bullet drill on the 18th of April at Palm Meadows. It's very fast, 46-3, and looking at some of his workouts, he's sharp in the mornings, but that was extremely sharp, and she did this with another horse. It was a winner, so I picked up on this, and I had to use Examiner.
Race number 8 this afternoon is about 7.5 furlongs on the turf. Claimers 3 and up. Non-winners of 2 in life. 12,500 down to $10,000. Do have to scratch at the main track. Only 3 scratches on the card today. So Pete's going to have an early, a very restful giving out the scratches in just a little while today. So the 8 is scratched out of here. And you started it off in here with Cole Bros. I think might be the logical one. Turn it back to 7.5 furlongs with the speed needed to use that inside post to its advantage.
He probably is the logical horse. You look at his last race, he finished 6th, beaten by 6 lengths at this same level and just going slightly longer. And he took a lot of play in there. It just wasn't a big performance from him. He did seem eager early on in the race, so maybe that was part of the problem. But his other races before that, back-to-back 70 buyers, pretty good performances compared to other ones in here. But I think we agree. I know you use a price on top, but when I recall your structure here, you went 3 deep in the Rainbow Six. I went 3 deep in the late pick 4 in this leg. It's still a race that I would never single Call Bros.
No, not. And I take the number 9. I'll talk about my long shot now. Our Stewie's drop it to the 12.5 level after following a solid, race up at Tampa with a couple of trouble starting outings against tougher competitions. So I think if he breaks sharp with the drop and Lionel Reyes can get him, the long shot away from the gate and trouble-free, maybe he could be a sneaky in the last race for the reasoning that I don't, no one jumps off the page at me here in this final race. So I wanted to take a little bit of a shot that a horse might have, maybe not the lead, but maybe can sit that nice trip of not win it, be second or third.
He seemed to have his best race when he did just what you're hoping for, when he just sat off the pace. So I didn't use him at all. Now I'm going to have to reconsider where I can fit him in on my tickets. But when you look, when he technically broke his maiden but finished second that race, he got a great trip. And I think that's kind of what they need to do, because looking at his last 2 efforts both here, first off, they've been against tougher. They've been at the 35 and 20 level, but they've played a couple of different games with him. Let's put him on the front. Let's have him close. I think he just needs that happy middle ground, and hopefully that's what he gets today.
Yeah, and I think the drop and a wide open affair are the positives for that horse today. So now you mentioned that you used both Amador Sanchez horses on your ticket today.
I did. I kind of kept on flip-flopping the order of them, but I do have a stat I do want to show for Amador Sanchez. It's a horse for him, I should say, that I used a little further down on my ticket. This is specifically for the number 7, Colton's the Admiral. So I just looked at horses that broke their maiden last time out. It's always a task to face winners for the last time. So I looked at the last 2 years. Not a huge sample size. 4 for 23, 17%. Amador Sanchez wins with horses on this sort of angle, but he's 52% in the money. But the thing that stood out to me is the ROI. All I see is value there. 749 was the ROI. I haven't found any of those in a long time. And I mentioned, and you mentioned, he's got 2 horses in here. It was tough for me to figure out who to necessarily use. I did use the 6 slightly above him. I know this horse's last couple of races, they haven't been great, but he's made up some ground. He made up some ground 2 starts back. He finished 5th, beaten by 2 1/4 lengths. The winner came back to win next time out. And I just think if you look at his career, he's faced a lot tougher competition than a lot of runners in this field. So I did elevate him over the stablemate, but the stablemate has kind of put it together in his last couple races. He finished 3rd 2 starts back at the mile, and then last time out, he graduated in a big field of 10, and he did it quite nicely. So I couldn't really distinguish too much between them, so I used both of them.
Well, I would have had 1-7 and 1-6-7 on my ticket, but I went with the long shot on top, so I know you're using the logical 3. I think on the race, and me with the sneaky here with our Stewie, is going to really have to turn things around, and we're going to turn things around when we go to the lightning round this afternoon. So 8 races in the bank, and let's take a look at the lightning round today. And you got to start it off with the field for the Kentucky Derby, I would think.
I would hope that's what we start with. Just looking at the 20 runners in this year's Kentucky Derby, we'll show you the slate right now. Post time 6:57. So I think Ron will be able to watch this after we wrap up here at Gulfstream Park. But just looking at the field, there's so many storylines. There's so many different directions you can go in, and I'm still not going to give it away. I have my pick, but I'll just tell you, it's numbers 1 through 10 is my top pick. That's all I'm saying.
Oh, well, that helps me out a little bit. Now, I was waffling between the known agenda and my top pick, which I've already released, is Rock Your World. So we'll see how that horse runs in there. But we got I still I haven't put the money down yet, so I still have time to change it, see what happens over the next day or two. So let's now update the jock and trainer standings here at Gulfstream Park. And I always like to do this when we come back for the weekend. Edgar got a nice little jump on everybody. Got up a 5-win lead on Mr. Paco Lopez.
He does, but like you see the race between Paco and Edwin's quite tight. And honestly, at this point, it's really a tight race between all the jocks here. We mentioned some jocks were out for a few days and everyone's kind of returning. But you look at the top 3 names, and I feel like every time I watch the races here, one of them's having a multi-win day.
Yeah, and that's what I sort of wanted to point out. No changes really in the trainer standings here. Just everyone chasing Safi Joseph Jr. around with those 13 wins. Todd at 5, of course. Todd, not the time of the year. Todd always wins the championship meet. But Mark Cassie, Antonio Sano, Kelsey Danner, and I really want to point out Kelsey Danner. I think she's doing a fantastic job.
She's doing a tremendous job, and I do recommend, if you're on social media, she's a great trainer to follow. She posts all these different videos of her horses, and she's really active. So she's stabled at Palm Meadows, but you can still kind of follow her action. But yeah, the race might not be for first place, but it's definitely for second right now in the standings.
Well, we got a long way to go with that. And with that said, always nice to see horses first-time starters be very impressive. And everybody on Twitter was talking about this horse, Flightline. You're going to show you right now. Wins his debut at Santa Anita, gets a 105 buyer.
Breaking your maiden's one thing, but to do it like that, a huge, huge number, went quite quick, was able to crush the field. Looks like the options, this one might have some big options ahead of, going down the road. I don't want to get too excited. You never know, but there's a lot to like in that maiden score.
Yeah, usually I'm the same way. You don't know what you're going to get, but I just saw everybody in the world going, oh, my goodness, oh, my goodness. So I figured I'd show it to the folks today, and a really good performance. And we got Kentucky post times here. We get simulcasting, of course, of both days, Kentucky Oaks and the Kentucky Derby. So our Silks Simulcast Center will be open up at 10:30 a.m. on both those days.
A very early start, long days. I mean, if you're here, you can, obviously bet on the races at Churchill. They start early, they go late, and then you got Gulfstream Park kind of in the middle of that. But it should be a super Saturday is the best way to describe it, and I'm excited. It's always a great day of racing regardless, just because it's Derby Day.
Yeah, the whole weekend with the Friday and Saturday. So just mark those times down. So if you want to feel like coming out early, you go to our website. You can find out exactly how to get seats on any given day here. So make sure you do that. So like I said, in Churchill Downs, their first race, 10:30 a.m. We haven't done it that early, I don't think, ever. We've had 11 or maybe 10:45 on Pegasus Day, but I don't think we have done that early. So that is what we got for the lightning round this afternoon, and I'm sure tomorrow we'll be back here and we'll have our Oaks picks.